This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This is the Journey Step-by-Step Christian Podcast, and I'm your host, Karen Beach. You know, when you go through this life, especially if you're kind of driven and type A like me, you want everything to go well. You work really hard so that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and you want to be successful. I think we all want that, but some of us really want it. And I know I'm one of those people. In my faith walk, one of the things I've struggled with is giving credit where credit is due. It's not my success. It's His success. It's the Lord's success. He's the one that's blessed me with the talents and the abilities and the opportunities I have. So it's not about me. It's about Him and giving Him the credit where credit is due. Now, when it gets really hard, is when things don't work out the way you want. When you are challenged, when you're going through a dark period, or when you've out and out fallen on your face. It's really hard to pick yourself back up. And again, if it's all about you, it becomes that much harder. And even in your faith walk, now that I think about it, you want to ask, why, Lord? Why did you do this? But eventually, that it all works out because it's all part of His plan. And our guest today, Leanna Bellevue, is going to talk about how do you overcome that failure? How do you get out of that darkness, and how God is there for you in the midst of those trials, and how relying on Him can help you get through those trials. And I really want to talk to her about this because this is something that all of us face. All of us have things that don't turn out the way we wanted them. All of us have times where we've missed the mark. You know, you might have had everything you thought you needed to be successful, and it just didn't work out. So, Leanna, welcome to the journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. And I love this topic because it's something that's so universal. All of us have been there in some way, shape, or form. And when I saw your email and you're like, this is what I want to talk about, I was like, this is something that resonates with everyone. And that's something that I really wanted to reach out and talk to you about. So in a nutshell, and every time I say in a nutshell, I think of Austin Powers going, I'm in a nutshell, I'm in a nutshell. But anyway, go ahead and give me.
Forever change that vision for me.
You know, and that movie did it for me, so I'm just paying it forward. I'm just passing it along.
Thank you.
But tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to be here today.
Absolutely. So I started my business in 2011. Started out doing Facebook and LinkedIn for some of our local clients. I was in Arizona at the time. And within 6 months, we had grown exponentially to encompass, to date, up over 19 countries: London, Sweden, Dubai, Canada, New York, LA, and everywhere in between. So it's been a great journey of being able to really get to work in a variety of industries and get to know people and experiences and businesses inside and out. And everything, it felt like the first, we started in 2011. up until the summer of 2018. So 7 years, the first 7 years, it felt like everything that we touched turned to gold. We went from 0 to 6 figures in 6 months, and it was just amazing. And it really felt like we could never fail. And I think now I look back on it, I realize I started taking some of the credit. My team, my clients, my this, my that. And the universe has a really good way of reminding you sometimes that it's never about you. It's always about God and always about a bigger plan. And last summer, I made a really bad decision when it came to hiring someone. I hired my second in command. I let go of the reins. I needed just to be able to breathe, because I've been like underwater for like 7 years, just plugging away, building this agency to incorporate, 19 different countries and writing a book and getting my master's. I mean, I was so engrossed in all these day-to-day activities that I was just burned out. So it sounded like a godsend when I hired this second in command. And within 3 months, my business was completely devastated. She had aligned us with some subcontractors that were more interested in quantity over quality when it came to the work that we produced. And I, as the owner, had to take full responsibility for that.
Wow.
And we lost a significant amount of our business in probably a 3-week span, 2-3 week span. And it brought us to our knees. And I had never failed at that level before. And it was definitely new territory. I mean, you have small failures every day. I mean, we've got 5 kids between my husband and I. So trust me, there's a parenting fail daily, right? There's there's a million different tiny fails throughout the day, but this is one that I never thought could happen because I thought I was doing the work that God wanted me to do. Therefore, it made me invincible. And just the opposite. I got knocked to my knees and I got realigned with who was really in charge and where I really needed to go.
Now, how did that affect you day to day, like as far as your income, as far as your work ethic and what you were doing? How did that post 3-week period affect you?
I would like to say that I immediately regrouped, refocused, got back on the horse, but I didn't. I sat in it, in the mess, in the muck, probably for a good month or two. And I was like, God, why is this happening to me? How come I'm not hearing you? How come you're not giving me direction? Why are you letting this happen? And I had a pity party for probably a good 4 to 6 weeks. And my husband asked me, like, well, what's your plan? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue doing this? Do you want to rebuild? Do you want to do something else? You don't have to do anything. You can stay home. What do you want to do? And it was in that moment of him asking me that I knew I definitely wanted to try again, get back on the horse, but I wanted to do it in a way that ensured that that same failure would never happen again. So I stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And I started asking, why is this happening for me? And I changed my prayer. Instead of saying, God, why are you letting this happen? God, what did I do wrong? Why, just why over and over. I started asking, questions like, God, please show me where I can do better next time. God, please show me if this is a redirection, what direction do I need to go? Please, make your directions loud and clear, because I obviously can't hear well right now, And I was just super specific, I need you to highlight the next step. I need it to be so clear that it's coming from you, that there's no other possible way for me to interpret it. And that's when he started showing back up continuously. I know that he was quiet in those 4 to 6 weeks that I was sitting in the mess and the muck, because I needed to break a certain way so that he could put the pieces back together for something that's even bigger and better than I could have ever imagined.
And that's the part I wanted to talk about, is that 4 to 6 week period is natural. We're human. And when things don't go well, you do need a second to regroup, to recharge, to just sit and let yourself feel your emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of times as Christians, we think we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't break. And,
Right.
When something bad happens, we're supposed to just, grin and bear it. I know God will take care of it. And that's true on a certain level, but on the human level that we're at, you might need a minute. And there's nothing wrong with taking that minute. In fact, like in your case, taking that time helped you get to the place you needed to be. And I think a lot of times people beat themselves up about taking that time, but it's necessary. And I'm pretty sure God doesn't hold that against us.
Right. He knows where we're going. And I think, what I'm coming to terms with, I think as Christians, is we are afraid to ask questions, because if we ask God questions, that means we're not being faithful, or we're not, allowing him to do the work. He already knows what we're feeling inside. I think the God that I believe in wants a relationship with us. And any relationship, if it's meaningful, is open to having hard conversations. You can say things like, I don't know why this is happening. I need you to comfort my heart. I think so many times we try and pretend, like you said, that everything's okay, grin and bear it. He knows the truth. So why not have an open, honest conversation with him? I was mad, and I told, I had a conversation with him that was like, look, you knew I was tired. You knew that I was pushing on and that I was burned out. You put this person in front of me. Like, what am I supposed to learn from it? How do I see that silver lining? How do I grow from it? And if you start asking questions about how he can show you the alignment, the answers start to appear. But to think that you have to immediately stand right back up, that's not how we're made. And if I had ignored the prompting for me to just sit and wait and learn and feel, there's no way I could be where I am again today.
Exactly. You need to have that time. And for me, how that manifested was I had to tell God, I'm ticked off at you. I'm ticked off. I said it, respectfully, but it's like, I'm not happy with this. And a lot of people growing up told me that I couldn't do that with God.
Yeah. Myself too.
And it's almost like they projected an eggshell God. You got to walk around eggshells with God. And it's like, no, you need to know that I'm disappointed and I'm upset. And, it's like you said, it's a relationship. And, as you were talking, what occurred to me is, what the model of our relationship to God is in the Bible? Marriage.
Right.
Marriage is that example. Now, would you be upset with your husband and not let him know?
Exactly. Right.
You be upset with your wife if you're listening and then just say, oh, well, sweetie, it's okay. Well, no, it's not okay. Like if I had a husband, he'd be like, Karen, why can't you keep a positive balance in your checking account? I'm upset. And I would completely understand.
Right. And that's such a great point, because the other part of that too is that my husband, if something's wrong and my husband walks in the room, he knows it immediately. He's like, babe, what's going on? Or, hey, I saw the look on your face, or I felt that something wasn't right, whether it has to do with the kids or something he did or something, and he doesn't want to just know when he's done something wrong. He wants to know anything that affects me negatively, just like he wants to know anything. He wants to celebrate with me when I have something to celebrate, and he wants to mourn when I need to mourn. And you're right. The Bible does give a very clear picture of that relationship. And I think that that's what God wants from us. If something is wrong, ignoring it just isn't a way to grow a relationship. That doesn't add depth to a relationship. It keeps it very shallow.
It
But
does
like you, I was
more
raised
than keep it shallow. It keeps it dishonest.
Yeah.
And your relationship with God should be anything but dishonest.
Right.
So
100%.
you're at this low point and you start asking better questions and really listening for God to reveal himself and answer that. And he started to answer you. So what happened next?
So what happened next was I said to him, I 100% surrender to whatever you want me to do, but I need you to tell me. And then it got quiet. And then I got frustrated because I said, look, I already said I will do it, but you have to tell me what that something is. Right. And I knew I wanted to, continue my business, and I started to grow there, but it really felt like the shift was a redirection. And I just kept feeling like I should wait. And patience is not one of my strong qualities, right? It is something I struggle with all the time. And I'm like, I already said I will do it. Just tell me what I have to do. And again, it was just quiet. So I started having, I had different business associates call me and go, I'd really like to talk to you because you've got all the success. You've got a great relationship. You've got wonderful kids. You've got this amazing business. You have everything, is kind of lined up for you. We want to talk to you about how you did it. And I really felt compelled to be like, let me tell you the reality of it. I had to find the courage to fail in order to be able to get to where I am. And I just had this huge epic fail, and it put me back to this current spot. And the second I started having honest conversations with people, they were like, no one talks about failure. No one is talking about what it means. Online, people are like, oh, I had a 6-figure launch in 3 days. Okay, which sounds great, right? Except what they're not telling you is that their 10th or their 15th or their 20th launch that didn't fail, or they had a 6-figure launch, but it cost them, they made $100,000, but it cost them $300,000 to do. So it's easy to manipulate things, especially in the online space, right? Which is where I grew my agency. That's what I created. I got paid and made hundreds of companies millions of dollars to look perfect online, right? And so I kind of started to go against that system and say, I think it's important as entrepreneurs, as business people, to be transparent with the struggles, and to explain to people that failures do happen. And when they happen, look at it as a blessing and as a redirection from God. God is not going to allow me to go 5 miles down the wrong path. He let me get 2 miles in and said, okay, no, I'm going to turn you around, right? Because he knows that I'm on the wrong path. So if you start looking at failure as a redirection back to the correct path of success, you don't fear it as much. I said, and it's really courageous to look at failure in that way. And the second I said that, people were like, that's it. That's what I want to talk to you about. And just like my online marketing business grew exponentially overnight, suddenly I'm getting all of these calls from people I don't know that want me to talk about the courage to fail. And that's when I knew that that was the direction that God was taking me in. It was just perfect alignment. And to be honest, it's not easy. I don't want to talk about failure. I want to talk about how great business is. And I want to talk about, the fact that I'm being asked to speak in London and, and I'm going to Austin for, PublicityCon and all these different things. But that's not what success is. Success is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And now that I'm opening that discussion, things are happening in that same way that they happened before.
And it's like you said, it's a journey. It's not a destination. So many people think once I get there, but once you get there, wherever there is, you still got to stay there. You can never stop. You have to always keep going. And the thing is, I think the challenge for us as human beings is we can't ever rest on our laurels because they're not our laurels. I can't speak. They're not our lawyer. You can't rest on your own stuff. Thank you. I don't know why, like all of a sudden I was tongue-tied there, but you can't ever, and I think the longer and the more success you have, the easier it is to make it about you.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And, I think, I'm not sure where our listeners are financially or anything along those lines or within business or, but I always had in my head that if you reach 6 figures, I don't know if I thought like the butler would just knock on the door and the chef would be there and then the private jet would show up. Like in my head, I had this idea that I just had to get there. And to me, there was 6 figures.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, there's a song, More Money, More Problems, right? All of a sudden, you reach the pinnacle and then you go, wait a second. Yeah, I'm making this, but now it costs me 10 times what it used to cost me, right? And the struggles remain the same and the ups and downs remain the same. And the only thing that adds is now I've got, 20 consultants that I'm now having to pay, which means I'm paying their mortgage and their kids' soccer, fees and the pressure just mounts. And the second that you start taking credit for all of that, that is when I think it becomes at risk of being taken away in an instant. If you use it as a blessing, like, God, thank you for allowing me this business so that I can help support these families. And thank you for the insight that they have. And if you just use it as a way to continually praise God, that's when I think that base that I thought 6 figures would bring is really what God provides. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And when you realize the source of your abundance, the reason why you've had these experiences and you've gone through what you've gone through, because on your own, and correct me if I'm wrong, you wouldn't be right where you are right now.
No, on my own, I would be portraying that everything is perfect and everything is great online, and I wouldn't be having hard conversations.
But like you said, you needed to have, people needed to hear that because, you go on Facebook and everything is, oh, I make 6 figures a month blogging. I do this and I do that. And let me show you how you can do this. And it looks, the illusion is real, so someone like you is necessary because it's real. What you're talking about is real life. It's not masked to make more sales. It's what is real in life.
Yeah. And it's conversations that need to be had, because if these conversations aren't being had, someone who has a powerful gift to share won't know that this is part of the journey and might get stopped and get stuck in that failure.
Exactly.
Like if there's not someone saying, yeah, you're going to fail, but you keep going anyways, like how many of our resources are going to be stuck in fear of failure?
Yeah, and how many people are going to fall down and not get back up because they've heard everyone talk about how easy, how marvelous, how you can just do this overnight. Well, if you're that person that it didn't work overnight for.
Exactly.
What you're thinking, there's something wrong with you, and that could be the furthest thing from the truth.
Exactly. 100%. 100%.
Wow. So, what would you tell someone? What do you tell people that are struggling, that are in the midst of going through something and it's not working out the way they want it to work out?
Well, I think that there's two things. The first is oftentimes as entrepreneurs, as business owners, to be honest, sometimes just as women in general, we are so hard on ourselves. If one portion of something doesn't go well, we discredit the entire process. So when you're stuck in failure and you feel like you can't breathe, that the wind has been knocked out of you, get out a piece of paper and make 2 columns. The first is write down every single thing that went right. That email went out correctly. The closing, whatever it is, right? Write down every tiny detail that went well. Then write down in the second column what did not go well. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have 100 things on one side of the paper that went well, and you're going to have 5 things on the side that didn't go well. And it's your perception a little bit. You're like, wait a second. So it wasn't a total failure. All of these things went well. Then what I do is I pray over the things that don't go well. And I say, God, these are the areas that I need your help in. I need divine guidance in. How can I address each one of these points so that I don't fail in that way again? Look, I know I'm going to fail probably a million more times before my time on this earth is over, but I never want to fail in the same way twice.
Exactly.
I want to learn a lesson and fail at something new, right? So
that's that, and that really is all you can ask for. Just fail in brand new and exciting ways.
Right? I know. And that has been a game changer for me in business, in parenting, in all aspects of my life. When I feel like I'm not doing something well, make a list. And then the second aspect is just pray, 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 pray. You can never pray enough over it.
And realize that, like you said, you want to fail different ways, but failure is always going to be part of life. There are always going to be lessons to learn, new changes to make, new directions to take. I'm doing the Bible in a year, and I was reading Paul, and he was talking about suffering. I don't know where we've gotten this idea that, hey, I'm a Christian, so now it's nothing but smooth sailing. No, there's always going to be struggles. There's always going to be suffering. There's always going to be something. And if nothing else, that something is there to tell us how much we need God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I was one of those people that thought, awesome, I got baptized. Now what? What do you mean I have a problem? What do you mean I have a conflict? What do you mean that, things aren't easy? Like, no, I gave my life to God, so he's in charge of it all. Wait, what? No, that's not how it works at all. But even I think about the Lord's Prayer, it says, like, walking through the valley, the shadow of death, as long as you know you've got a partner in that, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and it didn't say, because I might maybe possibly one day walk through the valley in the shadow of death. It said, although I walk. So it's
exactly
real.
Yeah, guaranteed. If you are a Christian, guaranteed, we will probably have more. How many times have you seen somebody? I know this has happened in my own life, where I see someone who the last thing on their mind is a relationship with God, and they are crushing it in business, and they are crushing it financially, and they are going on these lavish vacations, and they're doing all these things, and you're like, how are you having that if you don't have a relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I was equating, that once you give your life to God, God gives you abundance, God gives you everything, right? It's not. I would rather go through dark times knowing God is there and rejoicing in my abundance than have abundance all the time without the relationship of God. Because what happens when they go through a dark time? Who do they have in their corner? Right? Like, God's always calling to them, but if that relationship isn't already established, there's no guarantee that they're going to turn to him at that point. And it's amazing to see the people who don't have that relationship seem to be doing really well, and to understand why that dynamic might be taking place.
Yeah, but that dynamic too looks at everything from a very superficial, very materialistic standpoint.
Oh,
because, you're looking at what they have. You're not really looking at a lot of times who they are or what they're about. You're looking at, they have this car, they live in this zip code, they do this, that, and the other. Their business is in the black with this much money. But when you have God in your corner, you have so much more than the material, and you begin to realize that the material is nice, but that's not the name of the game.
Exactly. It's hard to remember that, though, when you see other people experiencing that.
No, it is. And we always, I think one of the things that we're always doing is comparing ourselves to other people. Right. And when we have that comparison, I live here, I shop here, they live there, they shop there. It's easy to get swept up in that. But I think that's why it's important that we keep God front and center, so that our eyes is really on the prize, on the more important things than those superficial, fleeting things. You have a great house, you have, I'm not sure where you live, but a couple hours east of here, you can get in a hurricane and have all that stuff gone tomorrow. Then what?
Yes.
So it's not substantial and it's not lasting. But
absolutely,
I have really enjoyed talking to you about failure.
Thank you. And you didn't expect to say that.
No, I didn't. But it was a great discussion about something that all of us encounter, all of us deal with. Like you mentioned earlier, it might not be business. It might be raising your kids. It might be dealing with your relationships, your marriage, your friendships, your family. But we all encounter failure. We all encounter areas where we, stumbled over that hurdle. And when we do, it's not that those things don't happen. They happen to all of us. It's who we turn to when those times get tough that will really define who we are and how we get over it.
Absolutely. 100%. You've got it.
Well, thank you so much, Leanna Bellevue, for coming by the journey step by step. As you all know, I'm about to end things, and I end them the same way. I started the same way, I ended the same way. Until next time, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.